Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Nate with Bizreport. If you're thinking about starting a business in 2026, there is arguably no better place to do this than New York. And when you start a business in the Empire State, you're gaining massive access to consumer market, incredibly strong economy, and a business-friendly environment that offers direct access to global markets. A really fantastic choice for forming and growing a limited liability company or LLC. But with anything in business, we have to talk about the costs. While New York LLC gives you great benefits like tax deductions, exemptions, there are several regulatory filings and financial commitments you have to meet. And New York, well, they're a little unique when it comes to how they structure these fees. So a lot of people think, I'll just pay the filing fees and I'm good to go. But in New York, the cost of forming an LLC extends far beyond that initial paperwork. You have publication requirements, biannual statements, potential professional licenses, and tax filings that are very based on your income. So in today's video, I'm going to walk you through a detailed breakdown of every single possible fee associated with forming a New York LLC in 2026. We're going to cover everything. Let's dive into the numbers. Section 1, the basics and name reservation. All right, so let's start at the very beginning. Before you even file your main formation documents, your first step is to make sure your desired business name is available. You essentially have two ways to handle this initial check. Method 1, the do-it-yourself route. It is free. You can simply go online to the New York State Corporation and Business Entity database and search for your desired name yourself. This is the fastest method and it costs $0. Method 2, the written request, $5. If you prefer an official confirmation from the state, you can submit a written name availability request to the Department of State. They'll charge about $5 per name to perform the search and confirm if the name is available to use. That does not mean your LLC name will be guaranteed to be accepted at the time of filing. Once you've confirmed that your name is actually available, you will have a decision to make. You can choose to file an application for reservation of name. The fee for this is $20. It legally locks in that name down for 60 days. Now, I want to be clear, this step is completely optional. If you are ready to file your articles of organization right this second, you can absolutely skip this fee. However, if you need an extra time to get your paperwork in order and you don't want to risk someone else snatching up that perfect name while you wait, spend that $20 for the 2 months peace of mind is often a very smart move. Section 2, appointing a registered agent. Next up, we need to look at the cost associated with your representation. This is appointing a registered agent. Under New York Limited Liability Company law, specifically Section 302, all New York LLCs must appoint and maintain an official registered agent if they are conducting business in the state. So, what does a registered business agent actually do? Basically, this is an individual or a company that you authorize to receive official state notices and legal documents like service of process if you get sued on your behalf of your LLC. So here's the twist. Unlike most states where you must go out and find a third party to do this, New York automatically appoints the Department of State to act as your LLC's registered agent. That's right. The state itself is actually your agent. They will receive your service of process and legal documents, and then they will forward those documents to the address you list on your articles of organization. So let's look at the option and the cost. Option A, using the Department of State. This is $0 cost. There is no additional fee for this. It's the default option. Option B, using a commercial registered agent. This typically costs you around $199 a year, and it's a recurring cost. Now you might be thinking, Nate, why would I pay $199 when the state does it for free, right? That's a great question. While you are not required to appoint your own registered agent, I strongly advise that you consider hiring a professional service. Why? Because when you use a professional service, you ensure that all critical state regulatory requirements and legal mail are handled strictly according to your business needs. Professional agents are there to make sure that you never miss a deadline or a lawsuit notice because it got lost in the mail or sent to an old address. So the cost is essentially $0 to $99 per year, depending on whether you want to stick with a default state option or upgrade to a professional service for that extra layer of reliability. Section 3, filing your articles of organization. Now we are at the mandatory entry ticket. This is the fee for filing your articles of organization. This is the document that officially forms your LLC with the New York Department of State. It contains all your key business details, your LLC name, your address, your registered agent's details. Once this document is approved, congratulations, your LLC is legally recognized as an independent business entity. The processing fee for articles of organization is $200. You have two ways to file this. One, if you file online, the application is processed instantly. This is usually the best route for most people. Two is by mail. If you prefer paper, you can mail it in. However, beware that mail application takes about 2 to 3 weeks for processing plus the delivery time. Now, let's say you're in a massive rush. Maybe you have a deal closing or a contract that needs to be signed tomorrow, and you need that LLC formed right now. The New York Department of State offers several expedited processing options. These are option add-ons to the $200 fee, including 24-hour service for an extra $25. They'll process it within 24 hours. Same-day service for an extra $75. They will process it the same day. And a 2-hour service, if you really need it immediately, you can pay an extra $150 for those 2-hour processing. So your baseline cost here is about $200, but it could go up to $350 if you need that 2-hour turnaround. Section 4, the publication requirements. All right, everyone, listen closely. This section is the most crucial part of this video regarding your budget. This is where New York trips up almost everyone who isn't prepared. We need to talk about the publication requirements of New York State. New York is one of the very few states left that still mandates this. And under Section 206 of the Limited Liability Company Law, within 120 days of forming your LLC, you are required to publish a copy of your articles of organization or a notice containing substance of it called a notice of formation in 2 newspapers. It's not just any 2 newspapers. One must be a daily newspaper and the other must be a weekly newspaper. And critically, both newspapers must be designated by the county clerk of the county where your LLC is located. You have to run this notice for 6 consecutive weeks. So let's break down the costs because there are actually 2 distinct expenses here. First, the newspaper advertising cost. This is the tricky part because the price varies wildly depending on your location. Next, the publication fees generally range between $200 to $1,200. If you're in a rural county upstate, it might be on the lower end, but if you are in the New York City, rates much higher. To get the exact detail of this list of approved newspapers, you must contact your county clerk directly. Second is the filing cost. Once the 6 weeks of advertising are finished, the newspapers will send you documents called affidavit of publication. These are your proof. You must take these affidavits and file them together with a document called the Certificate of Publication with New York State Department. The filing fee for this certificate is $50. So, to recap, you pay the newspaper to run the ad, and then you pay the state $50 to prove you did it. Then add the advertising cost plus that $50 fee. This step alone is often the most expensive part of the entire process. So please budget for this so you aren't surprised 3 months in. Section 5, the operating agreement. So let's look at the cost of your internal documents. The operating agreement. So an operating agreement is a legal document that outlines the ownership structure and the operating procedures of your LLC. It sets the rules for how decisions are made, how profits are split, and what happens if a member wants to leave. So now, in many states, this is optional. In New York, it's mandatory. According to Section 417 of the New York LLC law, members of an LLC must adopt a written operating agreement within 90 days of filing the articles of organization. But here's the good news regarding fees. You do not have to file this document with the state. It is an internal document. You keep it with your business records. Because you don't file it, there is no state filing fee. The cost depends entirely on how much you choose to create it. Option A, do it yourself. You can write it yourself for $0. There's a template online you can download from our website, bizreport.com, which you can then click the link from the description below, and you can draft it from scratch if you know what exactly you're doing. And then option B, professional help. If you want to be safe, especially if you have multiple business partners, you might want to hire an attorney or use a professional service to draft it for you. This can cost anywhere from $50 to $200+ depending on the complexity. So for the operating agreement, state fee 0, creation cost 0 to $200 or more. Even though no one checks it immediately, do not skip this. If you end up in this legal dispute later, not having this mandatory document can cause massive problems for your liability protection. Section 6, acquiring your EIN. The EIN is a unique 9-digit number issued by the IRS. Think of this as like your social security number, but for your business. It identifies your LLC for tax purpose. So you need an EIN to 1, open a business bank account, 2, file your taxes, and 3, hire employees. So how much does this cost? The answer, $0. Getting your EIN is completely free. It's a one-time process that you can do online through the IRS website. And the best part is, if you apply online, your EIN is issued immediately after you complete the form. You don't have to wait days or even weeks. Section 7, obtaining licenses. New York does not issue a general business license. There is no single piece of paper that simply licenses you to do business in the state generally. However, depending on what industry you are in and exactly where your business is located, your New York LLC may still need to obtain specific local and professional licenses before you can legally operate. So let's talk about professional licenses first. This type of license applies to a wide range of regulated industries: accounting, healthcare, construction, real estate, the food industry, the list goes on and on and on. So how do you determine exactly which licenses you need? So for state level requirements, you have 2 fantastic options to cut through the confusion. One is use Business Wizard on the New York Business Express website. I highly recommend you start here. It's essentially a smart questionnaire. You answer a few questions about your business activities, and it generates a customized checklist of the exact licenses you need. It even provides the contact details for those agencies you need to pay. Second, contact the Division of the Licensing Services. If you prefer more direct guidance, you can reach out to the New York State Department of Division of Licensing Services. They can walk you through this application process and connect you with the right regulatory bodies. But remember, it doesn't stop at the state level. You also need to check for the local licenses. Requirements here vary entirely depending on your specific city or county. So you must check with your local municipal agency to see if you need a permit to operate in a specific area. So to make this easier for you, I've included a resource link in the description below that leads you to a directory of all New York counties so that you can find local contacts quickly. Because these requirements are so hyper-specific to your industry and location, the cost varies widely. You might need to budget for annual fees, or if you're lucky, might find that your LLC doesn't need to pay for any extra licensing at all. The bottom line, don't guess. Use these tools and resources to research carefully so that you know exactly what to put in your budget. Section 8, filing your biennial statement. Now that we've covered the startup costs, we need to answer this question. What does it cost to keep your LLC alive? That brings us to the first ongoing cost, filing your biennial statement. In New York, you must file a biennial statement with the Department of State every 2 years. This is done to ensure that your business formation remains up to date with the state. It updates your LLC address and contact details for legal notices and public records. The cost is $9 for every 2 years. It's a very small fee, but it's mandatory. You can file this online using the Department of State's e-statement filing system, or if you want to fill in the report with a paper form, you'll need to contact the statement unit of the New York Department of State's Division of Corporations. Your request must include the exact name of your LLC and its date of formation or authorization. Just send an email to the New York Department of State at the email here. You can only file this starting on the first day of the month when it's due. So let me give you an example. Let's say your LLC was formed January 15th, 2026. You must file your biennial statement from January 1st to January 31st, 2028, which is the month your LLC is formed and 2 years later. For every 2 years, therefore, 2030, 2032, the same period applies, so mark your calendars. It's only $9, but missing it can lead to penalties or a loss of good standing. Section 9, paying taxes. We have to talk about paying taxes. When you run an LLC in New York, it is critical to understand that your tax obligations aren't just one single bill. You actually have obligations at 3 different levels: federal, state, and local. While we can't cover every single tax law in the video, there are 2 specific New York State costs you need to be aware of right now. First is the annual filing fee. Every standard New York LLC must file Form IT-204-LL every single year. The amount of money you pay depends on your LLC's annual gross income derived from New York sources. The fees range from $25 to $4,500. So if you have very little income, you pay the minimum $25. If you make a significant amount, that fee scales up to the maximum $4,500. Second, you have sales tax. If you sell taxable goods or services, you must register for a certificate of authority and collect sales tax, then remit back to the state. Because your specific tax situation depends heavily on your business structure and revenue, I cannot stress this enough. Please consult with a qualified tax professional. Whether it's navigating federal income tax, calculating the state annual filing fee, or managing local sales tax, a professional will ensure you don't overpay or, even worse, underpay on your taxes. Conclusion. So let's summarize the total financial picture. To make this easy for you to budget, we need to split your expenses into 2 clear buckets: your one-time startup cost, initial CapEx, and your recurring maintenance cost, or your OPEX. First, let's look at your one-time setup costs. These are the fees you pay just to open the doors, articles of organization. This is your baseline $200 fee. Publication requirements. This is the big variable. You need to budget between $200 and $1,200 for the newspaper ads, plus $50 to file the certificate. Name reservation. This is optional. If you choose to reserve your name officially, it's $20. Second, let's look at your recurring maintenance costs. These are the fees you pay to keep the doors open, such as biennial statements. You'll pay this every 2 years. Professional and local licensing. Since there is no general business license, this cost is a variable based on your specific industry and location. And there may be renewal fees, so we put it in there. Annual filing fee depends on your income. You will pay between $25 and $4,500 every single year via IT-204-LL. Registered agent, if you hire a professional service, budget around $199 per year. And if you use the Department of State, this is 0. And finally, don't forget to pay your taxes. It is true that New York has a higher startup cost than most states, largely due to that one-time publication requirement. However, once you are set up, the mandatory reoccurring fees can be quite manageable depending on your revenue. That's it for our 2026 breakdown of New York LLC costs. If you're ready to get started, make sure you do your own research, check that name availability, and budget for those publication fees. I'm Nate from Bizreport. Thank you for watching and good luck with your New York business. I'll see you in the next video.